What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick Dang with the Parallax, and today I have a very special guest, somebody that has been very successful in Web 2 and now is looking to make their mark in Web 3. Clawford, how you doing, man?
Hi, Patrick. Thanks for having me. Really great to be here.
Right, and it's really great to have you. Now, some people may be learning about you for the first time watching the show today. And so if you were to describe what your company is, Confiction, as well as Riftstorm, how would you describe it to them real quick?
So actually we just rebranded into Confiction. I think previously we were known as Mythic Protocol. So basically Confiction Lab is the company that we believe that the future of entertainment is collaborative entertainment. So we try to pioneer the collaborative entertainment. I think we could discuss more later about that concept. And then the first product that we're building is called Riftstorm. So basically it's a game, it's a top-down shooter. And some of our fans actually say that it's like Diablo, but with Second Amendment enabled. So Diablo with guns, basically. Yeah.
Diablo with gun. Got it. Okay. So we'll definitely dive into those the game details on that. But first, I kind of want to start with like the founder story, like who you are, right? Because that's very important, especially in Web3. I talked to you and your team before, and obviously you have a lot of background in gaming. So I want to first ask, like, before you got into crypto, like, what exactly were you doing?
Yeah, so I've started my game development company back then when I was in college. So it's more like my childhood dream come true kind of thing. So it started in 2009. So we based in Indonesia at a time. Like there is no game company in Indonesia, so the ecosystem is not there. We used to pay ourselves like $5, like $5 per month. It's enough for like 2 box of Indomie, like the instant noodle. And yeah, we kind of survived, and we managed to become like the biggest game company in Indonesia. So yeah, I think that's
Right.
what get me started into the game industry, because
Right. I'm actually really curious. Like, how do you go from paying yourself $5 a month to becoming the biggest, right? Like just real quick, like what was that journey like? Was it like it took a couple years before you started paying yourself a real salary, or like how was it?
I think it takes us like 8 months for us to be able to afford like minimum salary in the country. So yeah, because I think I really remember that one. And I think we really like scramble a lot because there's not much opportunity there. So I think we go from developing like flash game at a time, like web-based game, go to like mobile game, social game for Facebook. And then I think we able to step up our ladders. We able to develop game for consoles like PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, and then yeah, I think things starting looking good starting there. And we also are able to attract some investor, because in the end of the day, like game industry, it's still a very kind of high capital kind of industry. So yeah, so
Right.
I think we get
Right.
lucky, like the opportunities there. We managed to be able. I think we
Right.
become the biggest in Indonesia in our like third years, I think. And then after that, like yeah, opportunities
Oh,
start
really?
piling up, and then I think we are pretty lucky. We are in a good position, and then I think the key is just putting all the hard works, and hopefully it pays.
Right. Right. So just kind of explain to me exactly what that studio does. Is it that you develop your own games, or is it that you help other people develop their games and they come to you? Is that
Yes.
like what is it
So
exactly?
I think we do almost everything, because initially there's no game industry. So what we do is that initially we start ourselves as building our own title, but building our own title actually requires a lot of capital. And then the problem is that we need to manage the risk. And I think one of the main intention of the game studio is that we want to build the Indonesian game industry ecosystem. So at that time, we cannot rely only on a hit-driven kind of product. So we also do like work for hire. We also do outsourcing. We also do like co-development partnership. So they're actually able to scale us. I think now we have like around 350 people in the company. So we do ranges from even like outsourcing, porting games to consoles. We also develop our own titles, mainly in consoles. We even have an
Right.
academy, like we teach others how to build games.
Oh, and then you make money from teaching the how to build games, and then maybe you help
Yes,
them.
so the financial aspect of the academy, but more that because the industry is not really established, so we need to build our own talent. Like because there's no talent pool, there's no university that teaching how to build games, so we build a more like a complementary side courses for people that want to develop games to learn. Yeah.
Got you. Okay, so it's just like a steady, gradual build up,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
From trying your own games, then you're like, oh, it's kind of hard, so now we got to build other people's
Yes.
games, get some more cash flow, reinvest, get
Yes.
investors. and up and up and up,
Yes,
right?
we call it like
Got
a
it, got it, got it.
talent pipeline. We hit like we have a free online courses, we have more like paid courses, but we also have like partners that do incubation where we assemble like team and then help them build games, try to pitch their game to publishers, and then some of them manage to get their own studio, and then we become partnership with their own studio. So that more like developing the ecosystem.
You know, how did you guys transition into getting into Web3?
Yeah.
I'm very curious about that. Well, the first question is because you're kind of successful in Web 2, right? Like big game studio, making many more, a bigger ecosystem. So like first, like why even consider Web 3? Actually, I'm curious
Yeah.
about that.
I think I'll try to answer the why actually we get into Web3. Like how do I find Web3 in the first place? So I think personally, because my background is computer science, I've becoming very familiar with the Bitcoin, but more on the technology side because I'm more like a geek. I study more on the distributed ledger kind of thing. So it's a fancy things in 2012, I think. I still regretting myself that I didn't mine anything at the time or buy anything. So and then I think in 2017, when the ICO kind of boom happening, I get a lot of like exposure about all the trades happening, but I still not really into crypto at the time. And the biggest exposure is when the play to earn kind of boom in 2021, and then one of our angel investors actually introduced me into like crypto space. And then at the time, like there's a lot of like NFT projects or token project that are able to raise a lot of fund. And then they promise that they want to build games, but most of them they don't have any game development team or capability. So they come to our company and then ask us to help them build the prototype, build the mini game, build the game itself even. So I
Right.
think that's my biggest
Right.
exposure about Web3 at the time in end of 2021.
Right. But at that time, were you like super into the whole GameFi, DeFi kind of stuff? Or was it like people come to you, they're like, hey, we need this kind of game. It got to be crypto. Can you build it? And you're just like, okay, sure. Or like, how was
Yes.
the dynamic there?
Initially, like most of the conversation is as you said, like people come, they want us to build a game. But when we build the game to them, most of our conversation is actually very short term. Like what they really want to focus on is that in the next 3 months, the game need to be live. The game need to have like token utility or NFT utility, and then they never think like what happened on the next 6 to 9 months. Like it's very short term. As the work for hire company, we are okay with that, but I personally like with the team also like we start digging in and what is Web3, what is like, and it's actually captivating me a lot about the ethos of Web3, about how decentralization actually bring the power back to the people, like how like let's say like we could give the ownership back to the gamers. I think that kind of thesis really intrigued us, and then we dig deeper. And then I think in November 2021, I decided that I stepped down. Previously, I was the CEO of the Web2 company. I stepped down, and then we create Confiction Lab. So I think that's
Right.
after learning a lot, we realized that I think this is the way.
Right. Well, why is it the way, right? Because if you're the CEO of a already successful company, you know, why take that
Yeah.
risk, you know?
So I think I could share one of my screen here because I think this might
Hmm.
be able to illustrate the why. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that the main reason is we call it collaborative entertainment. And
Hmm.
quick question because we both are gamers. Do you know what is the first
Yeah.
video game ever created? The
Um,
first one.
Pong? I don't
It's
know.
okay. Recall like
The first
yes.
one? I don't
Yeah.
know.
So most people will think like it's either Pac-Man or Pong, right? Like the
Right.
arcade one. But
Right.
uh,
Yeah. That's what I thought.
but
Yeah.
in historically, like the first game ever created is a game called Tennis for Two. It's a game created by MIT
Okay.
student in 1957, I think. So it's back before like
Okay.
computer even a thing. So at the time, like
Right.
the game industry is not existed because it's technically a hobby. And then we realized
Okay.
that if we go back to history, there is like a game
Right.
cycle happening because of a new technology. And the first cycle is because of the
Okay.
computers. Because computer is invented, people could play game at home via console or PC or at
Right.
restaurant or bar through the game
Right.
arcade. And at that time, like
Right.
most of the problem in the game industry is how to make a fun game. And the biggest winner is like US company,
Right.
Europe company, like and Japan company like Nintendo, Sony, Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard.
Right.
And that kickstarted the whole game
Okay.
industry from 0 to 40 billion. And if you see like in
Right.
the late 90s, the game industry is not growing. Like in between 95 to 2000, the game
Right.
industry is not growing anymore
Right.
until the next cycle is coming in.
Okay.
It's basically
Right.
so the next cycle is driven by two technology. The first one is mobile that
Hmm.
actually allows everyone to have
Right.
gaming devices, and the second one is internet
Right.
that solve distribution. So
Right.
I was born in a very
Mm.
rural area in Bali. And for me, like in the first
Right.
cycle, to get a game, I need to ask my parent to drive like 15 hours just to buy games. 15
15
hours,
hours.
yes.
Damn.
So it's very remote.
Right.
So internet actually solved that. So at the time, the second cycle,
Mm,
the next problem to solve is adoption. How to make like 3 billion people play
right.
games. And interestingly,
Right.
the solution is a shift in business model, like it becoming free to play. Like it's a business model that
Got it.
mimic the wealth distribution. So people that only have maybe like $10 to spend like per month could play for free, but people that are able to spend like 1 million per month could spend like 100K in the games. So it's a
Right.
it's a
Right.
free to play model. The biggest winner is Chinese company
Right.
Tencent, NetEase, Korean company like Nexon, Nordic company like
Right.
Supercell.
So all the gotcha
Yes, all the
mechanics,
gacha things.
basically.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is
All
like
the
the big
gotcha.
winner on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
second cycle. And if you see
Right.
in the past 3 years, it's actually not growing. It's actually declining. It's the same in what happening in
Really?
95. So the next 20 to
Uh,
23 is not growing anymore because we believe,
oh,
yeah,
so
we,
before you continue to that, I was looking at the
yes,
graph, right? It looks like it's exponential
yes,
up, and then the last year is
it's
high. So you're saying the next year after that is
not
not
growing.
growing.
So from 2022, 2023, it's not growing. 2023 to 2024, it's also not growing. So it's becoming more stagnant. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, I think I need to
right. Okay.
upgrade the
So,
graph.
right. Why is that? Like, why is it stagnant?
I think the biggest problem is actually because the growth, because of COVID, it's actually supercharged the whole game industry growth. But after COVID, like people need to spend the money as well as elsewhere. Like
Okay.
during COVID, the
Okay.
only option of entertainment is only games and watching like entertainment like movie or
Right.
Netflix. But after COVID, people could
Right.
go out anymore, and then people go to other places. So spending in games decline. Yeah.
Oh, after
Yes, after
COVID.
COVID.
That's
So
what.
that's the main reason. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I see. But aren't more and more people like have access to smartphones?
Yes,
Or
so
like, is that the number
yes, it's
growing?
still growing, but I think even in 2021, the number of gamers is already 3 billion. Yeah, so if you
Right.
want to
That's like,
scale
yeah,
more, we
big
need to
percentage of the
reach out
world.
more to the remote area of Africa that not really have the ARPU.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
and if we want to
Yeah, they don't have the
increase,
spending power,
yes,
right?
yes, and if you want to increase
Mm,
the average revenue per users,
right.
game industry already the highest in terms of entertainment spending per person. So we
Right.
cannot
So it's really like kind
increase
of
it
capped
more.
out. So there's no more new people, and all the people spending money are already spending like max money
Yes,
already.
yes.
Right. Okay. So it's okay. It's a little stagnant. Okay. So
So
what's
what's
next?
next is we believe that the whole like, economy cycle in the game will change because of these two technology. The first one is AI that actually allows everybody to become active contributors. So for example, like we before is only a gamers, like we are consumers. But with AI, now I could like, oh, why don't I just change the boss to become look like this? It's doable now with AI. I don't need to learn how to code. I don't need to learn how to draw. So like AI actually democratize capabilities to contribute. So that one. And then, but if only AI is that in place, there will be like too many content and there will be a lot of problem and a trust problem. So blockchain, the distributed computing, will actually solve the trust problem. So we believe that the main problem to solve is how to create an economy where every individual participant is actually actively contributing. Yeah, so we call it collaborative entertainment. Take it from a point of view of gamers. So before, it's very single directional interaction between this is the publishers, they create games and they sell it to the consumer, which is the gamers. Now imagine that it's not really like one directional, not also two directional, but more like a circular. Because now gamers could also become a creators, could also become a content creators that promote the game, could also like have the imagination to be the game itself, could also implant their story that they think it's good, could even like personalize the game experience through AI. So I think these two technology enables a lot of aspect that is not possible in the previous cycle. So we believe that with these two
Right.
technology, the potential of how the industry will be moving forward will be limitless. So I think that's why we step
Mhm.
down and then we just rush to the next
Wait,
cycle. Yeah.
okay, I have a question on that
Yes.
actually. You're saying that the potential may be infinite, right? In terms of like how big the market can be. I'm curious to know how do you derive that? Because even if content creators are using AI to create an infinite, range of content, right? Somebody still has to buy it,
Yes.
right? So, the money's not infinite. Maybe the content is infinite. So, like, what do you think about
Yes.
that?
Okay. This is a might be pretty sensitive topic, but if we talk about if the money is not infinite, technically some or maybe a lot of government printing infinite money. So yeah, so technically if we see money just as things that we could measure, it seems it's not infinite. But if we see money as a means for individuals or human to be able to have economic interaction, it's just a means. Yeah, I think the idea is how to use this means to actually maybe incentivize or maybe like motivate individuals to have the economic interaction. Because in the end of the day, money is not really the only reason why people do the economic interaction. For example, like I make food not because I just want to get the money from the one that purchased, but because I also love like cooking. That's its emotional things, right? Yeah. So
Right.
I think that economic
Okay.
interaction is stimulated by means of technically quote unquote money.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Could you say, like, for example, like, if there's an app where you walk and you get paid to walk, technically the market for that, it doesn't exist, but because somebody's giving you something
Yes.
to walk, and now there is a market,
Yes.
like something like that, right? You like make a market out of thin air.
Yes. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so I guess, okay, in that perspective, you could technically call it infinite. Okay,
Yes.
and it depends on how you incentivize people, right?
Yes, yes. So I think the problem is how to make it grow that it is sustainable. Because if it grows to max, to because market move in cycle. For example, if we grow the economy like this, it could crash like this, and then that crash is very bad for a lot of people. But if it like this, it's bearable. Yeah.
Steady.
So
Yeah.
yes,
Right. Which is, I think, kind of difficult in crypto, right? Because, like, if we look at the history of most coins and things like that, it's a lot of ups and downs really
yes, yes.
fast. Everything moves at hyper speed. So, like, I'm curious about your approach, right? Because I feel like you look at things a little more long term. So, how do you approach this challenge in crypto?
Let's say we talk the market cycle. If we see the whole market as the price cycle of let's say Bitcoin or Ethereum, it seemed pretty extreme, right? Like the last cycle peak at I think it's 68,000, and then the lowest it's 20k. So it's like up and down for 80% kind of thing. Yeah, 70%. It seems extreme, but if we see like the amount of capital or the amount of economic activity, it's honestly not that extreme. It's yeah.
Okay.
So I think
Like when you zoom out, right?
yes,
Like,
yes,
it's like
yes.
it's just going up.
Yes,
Okay.
because if
Yeah,
we
sure.
zoom, like if we really zoom and zoom out, what the cycle that happening in the crypto is pretty similar with the world capital cycle. Yeah,
Okay.
so I
The
think
what capital cycle?
now the world capital cycle.
Like the world capital
Yes,
cycle, like the
yes,
entire
yes,
world.
the entire world
Okay,
capital cycle.
got
So
it.
I think there's a good thesis about this. I remember I read it somewhere. But the thesis is that if you see like how when the Fed actually raising the interest rate, like people just put the money on the Fed because it's more secure, and then Bitcoin price like kind of draw down. When the Fed is hinting that there is no more like increase in interest rate or maybe like lowering down interest rate, people start pulling out the capital because they think Bitcoin have the better growth rate. So the flow of the price flow is actually it's similar with the capital flow. We need to study that, but I think we need to design an ecosystem where, regardless of the volatility of the price, we should be able to design a healthy economy. Imagine like there is an island in Indonesia with 1,000 people. Regardless of the price of Bitcoin, regardless of the price of USD, the people there could live and transaction happily, right? Yeah. Doesn't mean that they're isolated, but they could manage. I think that's I think the stupidest
That's the
analogy
idea.
that I could think. But maybe it's yeah.
Right. But it makes sense, right? If you're on the island, you don't pay attention to what's going on. You can still buy a crab on the
Yes,
island and eat it, right?
yes, yes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so I understand. I get that. Okay, so let's move forward now. I mean, what I appreciate about you is, like, you think very philosophically about your approach, right? It's not just, hey, I'm just gonna make a token, but it's like, what is the world doing? So I definitely appreciate that fresh perspective.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, going into Riftstorm, right? So this is the. Do you still want to share your screen, by
Yes.
the way, or?
So this is actually after this explaining about Riftstorm. So and then after that I close the screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Let's continue
Yeah.
then.
So
Let's go on with this.
now
Yeah.
because you talk about Riftstorm, I think the idea of collaborative
Right.
entertainment, we need to make a first product that able to reach a lot of people. So that's why we start with the
Mm-hmm.
biggest problem. It's a multiplayer games
Okay.
problem. So as you know, like
Okay.
I believe you play games, we play games, and most of the games that we play,
Mm-hmm.
it's a multiplayer games. And
All right.
when we do our market research, most of the gamers in multiplayer games have motivation to play with their friends, like a lot of
Right.
them, like more than half. But the
All right.
problem
Okay.
is most multiplayer games is a PvP games, and it actually hinders play with friends. So for example, like, do you play what kind of games that you play, like multiplayer games?
Like Dota.
Ah,
I
yeah,
played Dota
okay.
before, League of
Let's
Legends.
use
Yeah,
Dota. Like,
Valorant. Yeah. Okay.
you're a
Okay.
very good Dota player, but I'm a League of
Okay.
Legends players. Even when
Right.
we want to play together, it's very hard because we need to relearn
Right.
all the skill, we need to learn all the hero. So there's a high switching
Right.
cost. Not to
Right.
mention, like, especially in Asia, there's a high performance pressure. Like, if you play very well and I play Sid, like, you will not want to play with me. Like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
That's true.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
not to mention, it's pay to win. In some games, it's pay to win. Like, if you spend
Right.
like
Right. Right.
10K and I only spend like 500, I will feel like
Right.
very shy to be in the same group with you. So that actually hinders playing with friends. So that's why we realize that at any point of time, everybody will always have their number one game. Like, for you, maybe now it's Dota. Maybe next 2 years it'll change to Valorant. Maybe for me, maybe now it's League of Legends. Maybe next year I'll change to Diablo 4. Maybe, but
Okay.
Riftstorm will always want to be everybody's number two to play with friends. So let's say you play
Right.
Dota, I play Valorant, and then we want to play together, we play
Right.
Riftstorm. So
Oh.
that's the key
Oh, so you
positioning.
want to be their number 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
we don't
I'll
want.
still play the. Theoretically, I still will play Dota,
Yes.
but when I want to play with you, I'm like, hey, I know you don't play Dota. Let's play Riftstorm.
Yes.
Like that. Okay.
And we design
That's
Riftstorm
interesting.
as easy as possible, like for everyone to chip in and enjoy.
Right.
Like, even in
Right.
our playtest, we get a lot of like feedback that there's a pro Valorant
Mhm.
players that when he plays very competitively, and then he gets
Right.
tired, and then he still wants to play with friends, shooting monsters.
Right.
So they play
Mhm.
Riftstorm together. So it's actually already validated with the market. So when you want to just chilling with your friends, you want to play and then while
Right.
chatting, even like you want to play while
Right.
having a meeting, you could play Riftstorm
Right.
while doing that.
Right. I'm curious. Has anyone attempted this in just purely Web 2 yet? Like, is this a new concept that we're hearing, or?
I think no one really want to position themselves as number two. So I think this is very
Right.
unique positioning because we don't want to compete
Right.
to everyone number one. We want to compete for everybody's
Right.
number two at heart.
Right. That's definitely interesting. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead and
Yeah,
continue.
I think that's it about Riftstorm. Yeah. So basically, I think if it's about the game, it's basically the game have mass appeal, so it's very easy to play, but have a layer of
Mhm.
mastery. The game
Right.
combine a roguelike element, imagine like Hades. So every time you play with your
Yeah.
friends, there's always different surprise. It always feels different. We also combine with like Warframe or Diablo looter shooters. So there's always
Okay.
something that you want to grin with your friends. There's always
Right.
something materials that you want to search. There's always like
Right.
weapon gacha that you want to open. So that's the idea. And it
Right.
used also like a lot of relatable characters like Valorant. So
Okay.
there's a lot of like
Mhm.
characters that you could follow the story and everything. And because the game
Right.
is targeting everybody's, so the game is planned to be a multi-platform cross-play games. Yeah, basically it's have a how to say like for example, you play on console, I play on mobile, we could still play together. And it also localized
Right.
in like multiple languages to make it easy for everyone to onboard. And
Right.
also most of the Web3 element, we will integrate it seamlessly. So most like even everyone will only just see, oh, I just have a digital asset without really
Mhm.
need to worry about the Web3 technology behind. And when they have
Right.
like more understanding, more savviness, they could go to our site and then use the usual Web3 technology now.
Right.
But
I have a question.
yes.
Oh, yeah, I have a question on the game. So if I'm playing this game, is it like a game where I level up my character, like how I do in Diablo, or if I die, I have to start over, like
Yes.
Hades? Well,
Yes.
or how you tell
Yes.
me actually.
Yes, that's a very good question. So more like Diablo one rather than more like
Mhm.
Hades. So that's why I think in the game
Right.
industry we use the term roguelite using a T,
Right.
because usually roguelike that when you die you go over. That's roguelike. But roguelite using a T is only an element of every session. You also have choices. Yeah, so it's more like Diablo. So every character you could level up, and when you die, you just need to continue your progress.
Right. But then let's say I'm like level 90 and my friend is level 10, right? How
Yes.
are we going to play together?
That's a very good question. So, because the goal for us is that it's everybody's number two, you need to be able to be matchmake with people with different like level. So what we do is that we have adaptive leveling mechanics. So let's say you are level 90, I'm level 10, and then we play together. your damage to the monsters is actually a percentage-based damage, and also for me. So, for example, like you will see the monster have 1 million HP. Every time you shoot, it 1,000. But I will see the monster have 1,000 HP, and then every time I shoot, it's 7. So we still be able to find the fun. You're still contributing.
Oh, that's interesting. Has that been done before in like a Web2 game?
Yes, I think Diablo Immortal actually doing that.
Oh, it's doing
Yes,
that. Oh, I
yes.
see. I didn't know
But
that. Yeah, that's cool.
but there is still like some benefit that you have because you have a higher level, so it's easier for you,
Right.
technically. But we implement like what happening in Final Fantasy 14. So we have an incentive where the high level people will always love to help the newbie players because they have a very good end game
It's a
materials
reward.
to do that. Yes.
Uh,
And imagine
that's
from the
interesting.
newbie perspective, like let's say you are level 90, you have a very fancy equipment, and then I'm a new player. And I matchmaking, ding, ding, and then I match with you, right? I will feel like very like impressed. Oh wow, your skin is very cool. And then I will react a lot. And for the high level players, it's also feeling good, right? You're helping new people. So I think that
That
loop that we want to like emphasize.
yeah, that makes sense. That feeling makes sense because I remember when I used to play Maple Story as a kid. You ever played Maple Story before?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was trying to walk from one city to another to get a job, right, at
Yeah.
level 10. And I got lost. I didn't know where to go. And then somebody came to me. I'm like, hey, how do I get here? And they actually helped me,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
And I was like, wow, this game is so cool. Like
Yes.
people actually like help me.
Yes. Yeah. That
So
feeling, right? Yes.
that feeling, yeah. So it's like you feel more like Maple Story is like it's almost like a social aspect of it. People are just hanging out, right?
Yes.
That's I think as a kid I really like that.
Yes.
So I can understand the whole social dynamic you guys are going for. Plus with like crypto incentives, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, is there more to this, or
No,
do you
I
want to
think
move to the next
that's
one?
it. Sorry. Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you for close
Hmm.
the screen.
Yeah, that's actually cool. So now going back into, let's say, making this game successful, right? I think a lot of people want to know that because I remember when I talked to you and your team, you guys were working on this game for quite a long time, right? So it's not like this just came out of nowhere, 3 months, boom, right? It's like, talk to me about that. Yeah, how long you been working on this, and yeah, you tell me that first, actually.
Yes. I think in some of like actual development, I think the games has been developed in now I think it's almost 2.5 years already.
Okay,
Yeah, but
right,
in some of like market research, I think we start doing market research since I think mid 2020.
right.
So at
Okay,
that
so it's
time,
been
yeah, so it's
okay,
actually
so
even
like
before like Web3.
4 years,
Yeah, 4 years
right?
ago. I think it's at the time we have a thesis is that there's already too many multiplayer games. And the problem is that one person could only play one multiplayer games at a time. So and then but the problem is the biggest winner in the game industry is always multiplayer games. So we kind of like torn like we want to make a next big hit, but we cannot compete with all the big guys in building multiplayer games. So that's why we try to find a thesis. What if we become the companion games for everyone? It's like the thesis of when Nintendo tried to fight with PlayStation. When the PlayStation 2 coming out, they fight with Nintendo. I think it's Nintendo 64, right? Is that correct? Is my history right?
PlayStation
Oh
and
no,
Nintendo
sorry. When
64,
PlayStation coming out, they fight with Nintendo
GameCube, right?
64, they lose. And then the next
Oh, okay,
cycle, they don't fight directly. They introduce Nintendo
right.
Wii.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah,
instead
totally
of like
different. Yeah,
fighting directly, they build a new market. Yeah,
right,
so I think
right,
that's the
right,
strategy
right.
that we're thinking. So that's why we've been thinking about how to be able to create a game for everyone, and it become
Right.
everybody's number two for at least 1 decade.
Right. Okay. And then how come you guys move that one into crypto, right? So you're working on this game, and then when you got into crypto, were you like, oh, Riftstorm would be perfect for,
Yes.
you know?
So, yeah. So that's actually a very good question. So, since the inception of the idea, we do more like a Web2 market test, where whether there's a need for this, and then whether there's whether the gameplay actually fit the market needs, and the crypto coming in. It's not really more on the crypto blockchain kind of element, but more on the ethos that it's actually enable collaboration at scale. So we believe that if the game have to be like everybody's number two games for like more than 1 decade, it have to have a lot of content. And because it's like more like a PVE games, it's not PvP games. So it definitely need a lot of content. So I think the initial idea is that how we are able to make a flywheel where it also incentivizes gamers, mostly gamers, to also contribute to the ecosystem, to become like the writer of the story, to become of a creator of a dungeon, to become more like a
Right.
game master where they try to build a mission with the
Oh,
friends.
okay.
Yeah.
Would
So
would this be a good example? Like, remember in Warcraft, 3,
Yes.
you have a lot of those custom games, right? And people are just making all the
Yes.
funnest stuff,
Yes.
and Pudge Wars
Yes. Yeah,
and
Patch
that kind
War. Yeah, I played that one.
Dota.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pudge Wars.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Is that kind of like what you're envisioning, or you talk to me about that?
Yes, actually, that's actually a very good example. I never used that, but I will steal that from you. So yeah, like thank you. That's actually the best example. But now, like before, if when you want to use like Warcraft mod, it's actually still very hard. But now imagine with AI, at some point, maybe like in the next 5 to 10 years, people just use voice. Oh, I want to save it like this. I want to change this part to become like this, and it will be like doable. So I think that's the future that we believe in. And we believe that the Web3 element is actually the biggest enabler to make collaboration at scale.
Right. Because you can get like a professional team even if they felt like the reward was worth it to come in and
Yes.
build stories, build anything,
Yes.
and get users,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, you get it. Like even
Okay.
like top content
Yeah.
creators, top influencers, we have some incentive at least. The incentive is
Right.
not
Or
maybe for only for themselves, but they could actually give incentive to their community. Now it's
right.
right.
Just
Yeah.
bring the whole community in, right? Basically, let's all play this game, guys. No, okay, I got you. So is the emphasis more on the PVE side of that, what you guys will build and deliver, or is it more about what the audience and community can bring together?
I think we start more with the PVE side from what we built to actually how to say to spark the innovation from the community, and then we enable the community. So I think the first 1 to 2 year we focus more with like settling the base of like the world, the story, the gameplay. Then we allows others to contribute. I think the initial contribution will be like very simple. Like for example, like because this is the game that you need to play with friends, so every time you bring your friends, you bring the value to the ecosystem, and the ecosystem will reward you from that. So I think that's the first like very simple like flywheel loop. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that means like you come in, you play the game, you bring your friends, and then the game somehow rewards you in some
Yes.
way.
Yes.
And then you're like, okay, I want to do more of that. And you do it again.
Yes.
And then you
Yes.
start thinking, wait a minute, why don't I just make my own world?
Yes. 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 And then you explore the world with your friends. Yeah. Because the story of the story of like we call it the world as a Mythic Protocol universe before, but basically it's the story of a secret organization, like secret agent fighting like mythical beings. So
Right.
everybody could
Okay.
create a story about
Uh,
that. Like it's
yeah,
very
it's easy, right?
yes. Yes.
Yeah, it's very easy. Yeah. So what do you think about like quality, right? Like in terms of this is how I think about crypto, right? Especially around decentralized IP. If it's decentralized and everybody can use it, a lot of times people don't use it the best way, or
Yes.
maybe the quality is not as good,
Yes.
right? Like talk to me about that, because like when I look at IP from an NFT side, not
Yes.
necessarily GameFi, it's like usually the examples aren't always the best.
Yes.
Some are okay, but most are just like marketing stunts.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think about that?
Our initial thesis is actually to use AI to democratize at least a basic quality bar. For example,
Mm,
like I could share you my screen again. So in the world of Mythic Protocol, so this is like actually we have like this kind of like this is more like a secret agent kind of UI interface when they log into the company. So in here, there's
mm,
more like this as a repository. So basically, it's a wiki of monsters, wiki of secret agent that actually people could contribute. So the idea is that we
okay.
actually will install like LLM to actually help
Okay.
people to create the story. For example, like I'm coming from Bali, and then I want to create a story about a monster called Barong, and then I cannot speak English. So I will just type using my like native languages, and then LLM will actually help me to translate and make it more like professional quality.
Like a good story.
Yes.
Right.
So
Right.
that at least like I have a initial bar, and then we also have like a more like console to actually help moderate the content. And then if the content is popular enough, we will talk with the creators to actually make it canon. But because everything is done on, we call it DUM, decentralized universal meta on blockchain. It's a dumb idea. I think my CCO really love this. So it technically will always record everybody's like inputs, because every chains on the universe is actually on top of blockchain. So chains actually create. So for example, you could create your own agent and you could start your own story. So your agent is actually based in Hong Kong, and then it's actually solved. That there's an earthquake like 2 years ago. It's actually a kraken in south of Hong Kong Island, and then the agent actually have a very fast response in 15 minutes. Like everything is done and nobody realized what's happening. That kind of things.
Okay, I understand. So people can use AI to create anything
Yes.
actually, and it'd
Yes.
be easier. And then if it's good enough, you can make it canon and maybe probably reward them for
Yes.
doing that, right?
Yes.
Okay, that does make sense. Does
Yes.
make sense. So I guess in the beginning of the ecosystem, are you trying to like what is the goal? Is it to get people to just play the game? Is it getting people to create stuff in the game and just test it, or like what are you looking to do?
So one of our like angel investors coming from e-commerce, like one of the biggest e-commerce in Indonesia, and we always think this as a supply and demand kind of problem. Like e-commerce, you always need to always think that you need people to buy, like you need the customer, and you also need the shop, the sellers, and it has to be like growing in balance. Yeah. So in our side, creators also want like a big audience, the gamers, and the gamers also want good stuff, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we need to grow
Creators want a
this
big
in balance.
audience.
Yes.
Wait, hold on. The creators want a big audience, of course, and the viewers want like good stuff, like
Yes.
good content.
Good
Okay.
content. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
So we need to grow it together. So initially we kickstart by we build the game by ourselves and then open up to more like content like EGC through others. But I think they will be like coming in the long run. But we kickstart ourselves and then ask others to actually contribute in terms of content on top of the game, like monsters, characters, skin, stories. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is there any like I guess reward mechanic for just playing the game by itself? Like if you get to whatever level or you know,
Yes.
get certain items.
So I think we are not really a big proponent of giving. We call it extrinsic reward. So like reward that could be
Okay.
easily equate to monetary value
Right.
for gamer just to play a game, because we
Right.
believe that the game have to be good enough to attract users by itself. Because
Right.
game at the core, it's actually entertainment product. People consume entertainment product and they get more happy, right? They release their dopamine, they release the like happiness hormone. Because if we need to give them quote unquote monetary incentive, the biggest problem that we always ask ourselves where the money is coming from. The game itself is a form of product where the consumer will need to enjoy, and when they enjoy enough, they will spend. And we use we use that spending as a reward for the creators, the creatives, right? If they're not spending, where the money is coming in from. So I think that we cannot answer that question. So I think we still like when we if we cannot answer that question, then maybe we will not implementing that as much.
Right. Right. Because yeah, when I observe the Web3 gaming market as it is currently, right, it seems like the game itself doesn't matter a lot, right? Sometimes it'll be like the game's coming out 3 to 5 years from now. It's going to be super big.
Yes.
But for now, we're going to give you some mini games that we just made in 3 months. And you just got to keep playing it, right? And the numbers go up and the valuation goes up and it just goes crazy, right? And it'll be like, oh, we got 100,000 users, but like, how many are actually real, you know?
Yes.
Right. No offense to the gaming market, but I think people are being smart and they understand this now.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you see that and you
Yes.
don't want to fall into that trap.
I think most of the market now in the crypto space especially is expecting DeFi kind of product, and then game is kind of forced to become a DeFi. So now what's happening is that some of the games is actually releasing a DeFi product with a game visual.
Right, like a
Yeah.
skin
So
on top.
yes. Yeah. So
Right. I think so too. I think most games are kind of like that, to be honest.
yes.
It's just how just how they present it when they do the marketing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So then for you okay, go ahead.
yeah, I think that the problem if the game is actually doing DeFi, they need to really solve the fundamental question of DeFi, where the money is coming in. I think that's the biggest like question.
Right.
Yeah.
Where is it coming in from, right? I mean, I guess it's if you really think about it, right? The money comes from, let's say, farmers farm, game goes up, TVL goes high. So what happens is they launch. The money comes from people buying the token.
Yes,
At
but most
launch
of
when they list on the exchange, right?
yes, but most of the people that buying the token also expecting profit, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the biggest
Yeah,
problem,
yeah.
so the biggest difference with DeFi, so when people put money in DeFi, the team actually use that money to actually make money, like by lending, for example, or by investing that money, right? But if a lot of like what I see now, like a game using a DeFi mechanism to raise fund, but they use the fund to operate, like to build the game. So the fund is not working to create more profit.
Right.
Yeah.
The
So
fund's not
where's the
working
money
to
coming
create more
from?
profit.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you mean, because for DeFi to work, you have to make money somewhere and you bring it back, right? But for a game to do it, it's not like you're taking the money to invest because you said you make a game, so you got to make a game that makes money, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So then where does the money come from? It has in that perspective, then the game has to be so good that somebody wants to buy a skin in the game,
Yes. Yeah. So
for
that's
example.
actually putting the hats of a speculation that the game quality will good enough that it will compete with Web2 for us. Because if you know like the success rate of Web2 games is even like less than 1%. It's a 0 point something percent.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
that's is the
It's
success rate. For us, it's
right.
not about like create hedging in one games because Riftstorm is only one
Right.
game. But for us, it's hedging more on the success of the universe, the success of the flywheel. Like if a consumer love what we building or what the community is building, they will consume it. Consume it in they spend, and that amount of revenue or money will actually go to the creators. So the creator is incentivized to create more. They will maybe utilize AI or maybe utilize their own tools to let them create more things, but that actually make the flywheels continue moving and moving. Yeah.
So then when you say there's more things beyond Riftstorm, right? So like let's say Riftstorm, let's say it launches, right? And then maybe it does well, maybe it doesn't do well. Who knows, right? So what else is there? Like when you say universe, is that like multiple games in the pipeline? Is it media? Is it like an
Yes.
anime or like what is it?
All thing that I could say publicly now is that Riftstorm is not the only game that we're developing internally. So in-house, I think we will have more games after Riftstorm. And I think we also working with a lot of partners to also work for another games, another media. Yeah, I cannot say what media now yet,
Different.
but yeah,
Okay,
we're
so like
working
different
with
things.
more medias with
Okay,
partners.
not just one thing.
Yeah, that's why we're releasing
Right.
our Genesis. So that Genesis actually basically our tools to actually invite partners to build with us. There's a franchise right on the Genesis.
Right. Oh, I see. Is that something you're actively promoting now or telling people about? Because I'm
Yes.
learning about this for the first time actually.
Yeah. So
Okay,
the
so tell me
Genesis
about
is
that. So
basically the zero, the big zero.
right. I'm into one. Yeah. Okay, so we have that Genesis pass. So with this, I'm able to work with you guys directly and make like a game or
Yes.
make
So
anything.
our first Genesis, we call it like Genesis of Genesis because our first universe, we call it Fake 1. So the universe 1. And then we call it like Fake 0. So basically it's a 0. So this is the Genesis of Genesis. I think we try to solve what a Genesis NFT problem in the space. And when you look back, like a lot of like Genesis usually have a low collection, and then they always limit the lit collection. Like some is like 420, some is like 300, some is like 500. The problem with that design, the first problem is that when the project scale in the near future and they want to invite more people, the only way for them to invite new people is by letting go one of the initial people. Yeah, because they cannot create new. So that's why, like for us, our design is that we have 888 supply, and we only release 300 this year. Every year, we will release new NFT based on how many people actually staking last year.
Based on how many people. Oh, okay,
Staking,
I
yeah.
see. So
So
it doesn't grow too much, right?
yes.
Right.
So imagine like if this year like a lot of people actually staking, and next year we want to we want to onboard like 50 people. So we need to release more because a lot of people actually staking now. But if not many people actually staking, we just ask the next 50 people to buy from secondary. So in any scenario, the whole project value is actually increasing.
Right.
Yes.
Because either you increase supply or you
Yes.
just take off
Yes.
certain ones from the market, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So the whole
got
so
it.
that's the
I
first
see.
innovation that we do. The second one is that
Right.
most Genesis, the main utility of Genesis is a future airdrop, and most expectation is coming from a token airdrop. The problem with the airdrop meta is that imagine like you have a Genesis asset, and then every time you get the airdrop, the Genesis value is actually decreasing because it's
Right.
already
Because
done
it's
the airdrop.
split. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you
So
have to
we
do another one
yes, and
to increase the value, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So how do you fix this?
So we call it diminishing value over time. And then so in an macroeconomic model, we need to create a benefit that is actually increasing value over time. That's why we pair the benefit with a franchise right. So the idea is that any holder of the zero will be able to propose a business plan using any IP in our ecosystem. So, for example, you want to create a video, you want to create an anime, you want to create a restaurant, you want to create a cafe, anything. As long as they hold a zero, they could do it. It also gives demand in the future for any like business partner that actually wants to work with us. They need to buy a zero. So
Oh, they
that
have to
actually
buy one.
have a value in the long run. So combining that,
Right.
yeah, will be becoming more like long-term value.
Right. So it banks on the idea that the brand of Riftstorm and the whole
Yes.
universe needs to
Yes.
keep going up.
Yes.
right, for this to work, right? But the
Yes.
moment people are like, hey, Riftstorm's not going to make it, then everything doesn't work,
Then
right?
everything doesn't
Well,
work.
that's
Yes.
everything in life,
Agree.
right?
Agree. But
Yeah, I mean,
basically,
that's
at
fair.
least by design, if everything doing well, the asset is designed to grow.
Right,
Yeah.
right. If assuming everything is doing
Yes.
well and the game is good and people play,
Yes.
right? Speaking of like people playing the game, who are your ideal users, right? Is it gonna be the crypto person or is it gonna be the Web2 person?
So I think we designed the Riftstorm to really, really be able to be played by almost everybody. So that's why the goal is everybody's number 2. So, but I think the initial like cohort of market will be players that play a lot of like PvP games. Someone that play Dota, League of Legends, Valorant, Counter Strike would definitely love Riftstorm. And then someone that also play like single player games, like Diablo. Diablo is not really single player, but yeah, like Diablo, Hades, with that kind of top down mechanism, will also love Riftstorm. So I think those 2 initial cohort that we will target.
Okay, that's more. It could be Web2 or Web3, right? In that
Yeah,
regard,
yes.
or
I think mainly the only difference between Web2 and Web3 is that they have knowledge about Web3. It could be like a Diablo player that don't have knowledge about Web3 and Diablo player that have knowledge about Web3. So we just
right,
target the
right,
Diablo
right.
players.
Got it. Well, one question I'm curious to know, because this is my thought about the industry. I'm not expert like you, right? It's just my opinion. So for Web3, a lot of times these games don't even have like a marketing budget, right? And that's very Web3 like. Whereas for Web2, you kind of have to spend money maybe on ads or something to acquire users and
Yes,
monetize them, right?
yes,
Whereas
yes,
Web3, it's not exactly like that. Like nobody runs like a Facebook ad to,
yes,
buy NFT, right?
yes.
So, like, how do you think of that? Do you go for more of the Web2 marketing style or Web3 marketing style?
Even in the Web2 gaming industry, is that now because every game needs to be promoted, and the only way to promote now is to actually spend ads on Facebook, Google, and it's becoming a very monopolized kind of industry. And the problem is that the cost per acquisition is always going higher and higher. And that's one of the reason why like lesser game actually launch, because it's getting more costly to promote a game rather than to develop a games. So that's this big problem in the Web2 space. So I think for us now, like seeing what happening in Web3, that a lot of way to promote is incentivizing users to play. I think the problem here is that the incentive should not be used for incentivizing users to play, but used to incentivizing users to bring their friend, or used to incentivizing users to promote the game. So basically it's the same like marketing cost or marketing budget. Instead of we paid upfront, we paid on the back end, like we paid
Oh, I
after.
see. So,
Yeah.
oh, I see. So they play the game, then they have to invite some friends, but they only get that incentive if that friend actually plays the game,
Yes. Yes.
right?
That's
That
for
person will do
example.
it to the
Yes.
next person,
Yes.
right? But then couldn't you say that, they can like, pretend to play the game and then invite their friend as well?
It's okay. So I think that's more like incentive design. So for example, like if I invite you and then you play, and then if you play for let's say 3 hours, I get maybe like
Right,
some points that
right,
might be have not much monetary value, but if you
right,
spend, then I have
right.
something. So I think we could like it's more incentive design.
Oh, I see. So you can't just like bot it with 1,000 bots and just
Yes.
move around.
Yes.
If you actually like spent some money or
Yes.
something,
Yes.
then it's just, oh, this guy's like he got
Yes.
to get in the game, right?
Yes.
Oh, I see. So that like, yeah, I mean, there's always the problem with like bots and stuff, right? So I'm just curious to know
Yes.
what are some things people are thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay, that definitely does make sense. And I'm not sure if you can mention this or not, but then in terms of incentives, right? Like, is there like a token involved that's coming up, or I can't say.
Yeah, I think at this point we're still like thinking, and
Think
yeah,
okay.
we might not be able to comment anything on that, but yeah, we
Right, right.
yes.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I'm just curious, right? But I'm sure people will find reasons to play the game when the time comes, right? And when will people be able to play like something?
Yeah, so I think we are doing like playtests and playtests like every time we have a chance. We have a build that we feel that it's good enough for people to try. Our last playtest is on March. I think we have another one maybe on Q3, and then we still like pushing ourselves that we able to have maybe like early access or initial like open alpha around early first half of next year.
First half of next year for early alpha. Okay,
Yes,
so then it takes a long time to
takes a
develop this
long
kind of
time.
game. Then
Yes,
we're talking like multiple years, right?
yes, yes. We
Right,
actually
right,
have a
right. I mean,
120 people team, and it still takes that long. Yes,
oh, just on this game, this
yes,
one game.
yes.
Oh, so you guys are like betting big on this game
Yes, yes. That's
in a
why, like,
way.
yeah, we did our research like in 4 years ago. We even like we do, there's a technique called smoke test. So the technique is that, so we want to test whether our game idea works or not. So what we did is that we create like a 30 minutes ads, 30-second ads video as if the game is done. And then we promote it on like maybe Facebook or Google. And then when people click it, they go to our website. And then we say that the game is launching like next 3 months, pre-register now. So we count like how many people actually entering their email. And then we compare with the benchmark game, like we copy like one of our competitors and then copy their video, make a fake website, and then see how many conversion at the front. And yeah, and then we compare like the this idea, like Riftstorm idea, have like 23% conversion rate. So from, I think, like 5,000 people that go to the website, 23% actually putting the emails.
Okay, that's kind of high, right?
That's very
23
high.
out of
That's very high. Like
that's
usually
very
like
high,
3 to
right?
5%. Yeah, that's why we are very confident with
You
the idea. Yeah.
3 to 5%.
Yes.
Okay, this is like multiple times converting better. Okay, so that's why, because of the data, you feel very confident to make a big swing in this direction.
Yes.
Right, right, right. Okay, great. So like moving forward, when as people are watching this, like what do they have? What should they be looking forward to? You know, like what should they
Yeah.
be looking out for on your socials or any
Yes.
announcements coming up?
Yeah. I'm trying to share some alpha, but not sharing some alpha. So, so I always, yeah, joke around, like, because I think we are pretty comfortable that we have some experience in Web 2, but we also realize that we have almost no experience in Web 3. We get a lot of like friends and advisors to actually help us. We still remember, like, in the beginning of this year, in a lot of like conversation, we get a lot of feedback that, hey, with the rebrand of Confiction and everything, we still have zero presence like in the industry. So that's why we start with zero. So our first product, we call it zero because we have zero presence and we want to build from zero. That's part of the joking part. And then I think next after that, we get a lot of like feedback also that we need more exposure because now it's still like very minimal exposure. So I think next after so zero will be minting like 30th of May, like this week, and then we'll have some exposure coming out after that, like maybe around June or July.
June or July. Okay, some more exposure, some
Yes,
more attention
it's
to what you're
exposure.
doing.
Yeah, that's
Can't say
it,
what it is,
it's exposure.
right? But
Yeah.
something interesting coming up.
Yes.
Okay, great, great, great. Okay, so for anyone watching this, next 2 months, 3 months, make sure you watch out for what's going on with Riftstorm.
Thank you.
So as we go ahead and wrap up the interview, are there any final words you want to leave for our audience?
First of all, I think it's thank you very much, Patrick, for inviting me. It's an honor to be
Mm-hmm.
here. Second one, I think for everyone out there, please, if you don't mind, like, follow our social. I think there will be a lot of information or announcement, especially about the exposure that I just shared. The last one, I think the next, I think more like the blanket statement, I think, is that I believe that the next cycle of games is actually coming in, will be driven by AI and Web3. It will not unfold that fast. So I think it will be like, you could see that in the 10 to 20 years, it will be there. How fast? We never know as an industry, but I think it will be there. This next few months will be very exciting for Web3 game because in the past, like in the last cycle, a lot of like game company actually raising a lot of fund, and then now they're actually making a very, very good game. Most of them will launch in the next 1 or 2 years. So yeah, they will be like very exciting. But yeah, please still, this is NFA Dior.
Right. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and link all the socials to all the companies that Clawford is involved with. So if you want to check out their social, their X accounts and everything, it'll be down there. And audience, I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.